14 out of 25. Okay, 6b part 3. Use your answer to part B, part 2 to calculate the percentage cover the pleurococcus on the north side. So you could get an error carried forward mark with this question if you miscounted. So essentially what you need to do to convert that to a percentage, we need to get it as out of 100. So if we multiply it by 4, because we need to get it out of 100, and 25 times 4 is 100. So 14 times 4 is going to be 56. So it's 56 out of 100 for that one. If you got 15, so 15 out of 25, and that would be 60 out of 100 instead. So it depends on what your count was for those folks. Okay. 6C part 1. Name one physical factor that might affect the distribution of the pleurococcus on the tree. So it's a physical factor. The ones that could be accepted for this, just write those in for you now. So we could have had temperature. We could have had light. We could have had direction of rainfall, because that will have an impact on where it can grow. And also the wind speed or direction. Okay, so those were some physical factors that could affect the distribution. And then for the last part, suggest an instrument the students could use to measure the factor you gave. A lot of common sense would need to be used for this one. So if you're measuring temperature, you could have used a thermometer. Just put that in now. A thermometer. It could have been a light meter. You could have had a rain gauge or a rain gauge. You could have had a wind meter. A moisture meter. Any piece of equipment that could measure the thing that you have mentioned previously was okay. So they're quite lenient with those. As long as it makes sense with what you've put, they'll give you the mark usually. Okay, next page. Okay, question 7. So students investigate photosynthesis. Use the correct answers from the box to complete the word equation. We should be getting this right every single day of the week because it's giving you the options that you can choose from. The first box is only going to be one thing, so it's carbon dioxide plus water. So water and carbon dioxide are two things that plants need in order to grow and produce their food source, and the food source that they make is glucose, which is the sugar, and that glucose can then be used for respiration. 7a part 2. Plants need energy for photosynthesis. Where do the plants get the energy from? So it's talking about this energy here, and that is from light, sunlight, or it would also accept the sun. Okay. If you had said something like a lamp, that would have also been accepted as well. So a lamp was okay. Okay. 7b, students used pondweed to investigate how changing the carbon dioxide concentration affected photosynthesis. Each student set up the apparatus shown in figure 5. The beaker of tap water helps to keep one control variable constant. Name this control variable. The thing that is keeping the same is the temperature of the water. Okay. It would also allow it if you said heat. Okay. Alright, next page. Okay. Just looking at this one then. So it says sodium hydrogen carbonate can be added to... Let's cut it off there. Anyway, well, you can see that. You can read that on your pages. Each student added a different mass of sodium hydrogen carbonate to the pond water. So we can see that here on the x-axis of the graph. So we'll zoom in on that. And we can see that we've got 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 and so on. It's got those amount of grams being added to the pond water. And this y-axis is giving us the number of bubbles given off in 1 minute. So when we add these masses, this is how many bubbles are produced in 1 minute. On figure 6, the result in the circle is anomalous. Suggest a reason for this anomalous result. Well, it looks like, if we can identify the pattern here, it looks like they've added the same amount of sodium hydrogen carbonate as the next one, which is 0.4 grams. So what it's asking you to identify is they have added too much sodium hydrogen carbonate. So that was what you needed to say to get the mark. Or if you say they've added an incorrect amount of sodium hydrogen carbonate, then that was also okay. We move down. So just group these together first so they don't move. Okay, move that down. On figure 6, draw a line of best fit for the results. So a line of best fit for this one, I'll try my best to draw it. So you start at your 0 line. It should be a curve that goes up and around like that. As long as it goes through the majority of the points, then that is okay. It might be better, in fact, like I said, I'm doing this freehand, so bear with me. Could also be used better if you do it like this. It has to go through the majority of the points, so something that looks a bit like that. Something like that is fine. It has to be a curve though. It can't, if your points are curving off, you can't draw a straight line like this and then like that. It has to be your curve instead. Okay, so we'll get rid of that and just put the right one. Just a simple curve like that. Okay, moving down. Estimate the number of bubbles which should have been given off in 1 minute when 0.3 grams of sodium hydrogen carbonate was added. Use your answer to part C2 to help you. So we're using this line of best fit that we've just drawn, and we're estimating the amount when 0.3 grams should have been added. So let's make this a little bit bigger so it's easy to see. And the way you do this, you just use your graph to tell you how many there's going to be. So if we go up to the line of best fit and then across to the number of bubbles, it is about 35 bubbles. So your estimate should be about 35. And 7C part 4, apart from adding sodium hydrogen carbonate to the water, suggest one other source of carbon dioxide for the pondweed. You could say a couple of things. You could say that it has been dissolved in the pond water, or you could say it is from respiration, because those are also places where carbon dioxide can come from. Okay, we'll go to the next page now. Okay, so we're on the final question now. Says figure 18 shows 4 cells A, B, C and D. Each cell is surrounded by oxygen molecules, so we can see that around each cell we've got these little dots, and these are the oxygen molecules. And we can also see some of them inside the cells as well, and there's more in others than there is for some of them. Okay, so it says name the process by which oxygen moves into cells or out of cells. So our answer for that, any movement of substances, so any movement of particles or molecules, is called diffusion. Keyword that we need to make sure we remember. And then for part 2, into which cell A, B, C or D will oxygen move the fastest? And we get 1 mark for that, and then for the next part we have to give a reason why. So the answer for it is A. So it is cell A, and the reason for that is because we can see around it there are more particles on the outside, and the rule for diffusion, which I'm going to write down here, and you make a note of this as well if you made a mistake on it. Just move this out of the way. Okay, so diffusion is the movement of particles from a high to a low concentration. So what this essentially means is if we have got loads and loads of particles, which I'm going to draw now, so we've got loads of particles in one place, so we've got loads and loads of oxygen particles here, or molecules, and we've only got a few here. What will tend to happen is those particles will move from the area of highest concentration to the area of lowest concentration. So what that would result in is something that looks a bit like this. So the particles are now more evenly spread out. Okay, so that was our answer. So this is your answer for that question. I'm not going to write it in on the sheet for you. So it's the movement of particles from a high to a low concentration. Okay, if we change the order of this, just give me 2 seconds. Send that to the back. Send that to the back. Okay, that should be fine. So we'll bring in the other side now. And it's saying, why do cells need oxygen? Really bit straightforward for this one. Cells need oxygen for respiration, and that is the process by which they produce energy. For 8B, this one was a 6 marker, generally not answered very well. A lot of people either didn't attempt it, which isn't good enough. We need to be making sure we're at least putting something down, or they got the wrong end of the stick with the question. So let's read the question first and pick out the key bits. So it's saying, the cells in large plants and animals are organised into tissues, organs and organ systems. Basic stuff that we all know. Describes, that's our command word, we've got to describe each level of organisation of cells and give examples of these in plants and animals. Do not refer to the parts of cells, so you cannot refer to the nucleus, you cannot refer to the cell membrane, you cannot refer to the cytoplasm. It specifically says that in the question, so don't do it, which some people did. So make sure you're picking out your key bits from your question first. Okay, what I'm going to do for this one, I'm going to bring over the mark scheme because there's quite a lot of information on it, and we are going to look at the mark scheme and see what sort of things the examiner was looking for. Okay, so the mark scheme should now be on the video, and we can see a breakdown of what is required for each of these. So for 1 to 2 marks, so this bit here, we need a description of a level of organisation. So that means that we need to describe either tissues, organs or organ systems. And I'm going to highlight those descriptions in blue on the mark scheme. So if you got these wrong, these are things that you need to be adding. So a tissue is a group of similar cells working together. An organ are a range of different tissues that work together to do a particular job, and an organ system are a collection of organs that work together to perform a specific function. So your examples for these folks that you could have included: for tissue, we've got loads of different kinds. We've got muscle, epithelium, glandular, epidermis, mesophyll, xylem and phloem. So the top ones are in the animals and the bottom ones are in the plants. If you are unsure on what these tissues do, you need to be looking over that as part of your revision for your B2 exam. Okay, I'm not going to go through it in this video. You need to make sure you are looking at that in a bit more detail, and you can do that by looking on the Firefly page or on BBC Bite Size. Okay, organs, there was a range of organs that you could have given. Some of the ones in the mark scheme are the stomach in the animals, or the stem, root or leaf in plants. However, there's loads more you could choose from. You could have said the liver, you could have said the lungs, heart, the brain, anything, any organ inside the body. And then we've got the organ systems. So we've got the digestive system, which was one example given in humans. There's also the respiratory, cardiovascular system, endocrine system, the nervous system. There's loads and loads that you could have gone for. Okay. Final points that you could have said is that organisms are made of groups of organ systems working together, and for that you could have just said that animals, humans or a named plant or animals are fine for those. Okay, so if we look for the maximum marks on this, to get maximum marks you needed a description of each level. So that means you need to describe what a tissue was, what an organ was and what an organ system was, and you need to give some linked examples. That means an example for each one. Okay, so that is the end of the review for the Biology B2 Foundation paper. Make sure that you green pen throughout it, and if you need to go back to any parts or any specific questions, then do that. If you have any questions that you need to ask, or anything that you're still struggling with, come and speak to either myself or Mrs. Wagg from the science department, and we'll try our best to help you. Okay, thank you very much.